Hey guys, and welcome to another day on the shop. Today we're back on the 240. We've got a couple things to do. We're going to check in and see what they are. Alright, so here's my list. We finished the exhaust, which it has to be bolted back on. It's not. Did the cold side. Working on the hot side. Just got one of my elbows in, so we can make that happen. Intercoolers in. Fuel pump we have to do. Fuel rails on. We got to mount the turbo, but we need bolts, so we got to go get those. Oil line needs to be ran. Water lines needs to be ran. Wideband and boost gauge are in, but the gauge pod just came in today, so we're going to figure that part out. I need some double stick tape is what I found out. Didn't come with any directions. I'm just looking at it, and the best way to possibly get it on there without drilling a hole in the top part of my steering column trim is to put some like 3M double stick tape. We're going to do the motor mounts. I ordered a fuel filter. It's coming in probably Thursday, which today is Wednesday. Front brakes and front arms are just not going to happen this go around, because I'm finding more things I got to order for it to make it back to being better. Oh, I need to add clutch line on there. That's the other thing. Yep, we got a clutch line in, so I got to put that on there. I need to actually just go ahead and put that on. So all these little nitpick things that I got to do, I need to do. So we're working our way slowly. Fuel pump won't be hard. Motor mounts won't be too difficult. Clutch line shouldn't be too difficult. With the hot side to the intercooler piping right here, I got my 2-inch right here, and it's going to go from 2-inch up over, and then 2 to 2.5 inch, and then this is 2 1/4, and it's going to come up to 2 1/2, and possibly something down there is going to help with the whole concept of an intake, which I got to figure that part out, because I have to make this fit as well. So I think that's 2 1/2 as well. So and I don't have another 2 1/2 inch coupler, so I got to figure that part out. So don't know how to do that because I don't have one. So I do have 2 1/2 to 3. Worst case scenario, do something random like that, but I don't know. So yeah, we're gonna get into this and start with the fuel pump. Alright, so I'm using a Deechworks DW200. So as you open it up, it comes with all the directions and everything else. It comes with new fuel line, new wires, and filter sock. Then you have your pump. So we're going to get in here and replace the stock pump with this pump, so we can get enough fuel for the turbo. So otherwise the stock pump will run out of fuel quickly, because of the fact of we moved from 270cc injectors to 370cc injectors. But with this pump I could actually possibly go to 720 or so injectors, but the most I'd probably do is 550. I'm not looking for a whole lot of power. I'm looking for some fun and just something to give me a little bit more oomph when I put the pedal down, instead of me having a slow car. It's a cruiser. So let's get to that. Okay, so looking down here, yeah, I have a weird setup back here. This battery right here. So we're gonna pop this loose and these 4 bolts loose. So that's a total of 6. These are 10 millimeter. These are just Phillips heads. This is just for the wire. I just want to give it some more room to move around whenever I pull this up. The top hat we're just going to leave in place, I think. I'm not sure yet. If there's a plug, we'll unplug it. If there's not, I can't remember. The last time I did a fuel pump, has been 15 years ago in a 240. So yeah, we're gonna get to that. I'm gonna grab one of my OLSA tools, sockets, and my impacts, because it makes it simple and easy. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's get in here. Okay, so looking down here, this is pretty nasty. So there was a clip right here that was up under this one panel with the screws, and I need to clean all this stuff up because this is nasty. So we got to undo this one, unclip this one, which these need to be replaced one day soon. I don't know how soon. These things are grimy and old. So I'll probably take some cleaner, clean them up so I don't have to drop stuff down in the fuel tank, because there is so much grime on this thing. We're going to take a little nylon brush and just brush all this off, and then take some air and blow it all out, and maybe even vacuum some of it. We're going to clean this whole setup up before we put it back in so it's nice and pretty. It looks like there's about 6 or 8 bolts. Looks like 6. They're probably 7 millimeter, maybe 7 or 8. So let's do that and clean this thing up, and then pop these 6 bolts off and go from there. Well, dang, those were hard to get off. Alright, so this is 8 millimeter. I'm using a 1/4 inch so I don't drag it across the metal too much. So, take all these. If you have a magnetic pan, that helps. Also remember which line goes where. Okay, so all the bolts are taken loose, the whole top hat's loose. Remember the fuel lines, which one goes where, and then as you bring this up, you have a fuel sending unit that tells you how much fuel's in it. You need to make sure not to damage that as you come up. You damage it and you won't have an accurate reading on your fuel gauge. Alright, this is a stock pump. It's pretty cool. Alright, so we're going to start by pulling this thing out of the bracket on the bottom. Maybe. There we go. Alright, this fuel sock is nasty. We got 2 clips up here, which, if y'all can see, excuse me. We got 2 clips up here which we'll take off. We got these lines right here that are just Phillips heads. We'll take off, and we'll re-solder these to the new pump wires, and we have a new fuel safe fuel line that goes right here. So let's get in this. Alright, so we got our new box here. Got a new pump right here. I'll get in this real quick. Alright, those directions look great. Anyway, we're going to get some wiring done real quick onto these. We're not going to have these 15 feet long. These are actually meant to be like soldered back up at the top hat. So this pump should sit right about here and line straight up. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to line this all up and put it in place, and we'll be good to go. I don't know if I've ever mentioned, I probably have, these weatherproof connectors. I love these things. They have solder in them, and they have their heat shrink, as well as they have double insulation to make sure there's no corrosion or water or moisture or anything else getting into these wires. So we're going to cut these back, then we twist them together with these pushed back up. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so looking real close at this, you see how the solder melts around the wires and everything, and then you have a waterproof connection. So waterproof, fuel proof, whatever proof. So that's what we're going to do to the other one as well. So once we do that, we'll be good to go with hooking this fuel pump up with the supplied connector. So let's get this other one done. Same order, easy. I forgot to mention, do this in a well ventilated area, because if you don't, you will sustain some fumes. So yeah, it's not fun. Alright, so we did the connections. We got the sock. Put the sock on. Remove all these. Make sure you remove all the holders or caps. So we remove that, we remove that. We got these two on here. And if this doesn't fit for any reason, you can also zip tie it to the stock here. And to do that, you just put a piece of rubber hose or something between there and there so it doesn't vibrate and rub a hole in the pump itself. And we could cut this fuel line back, but I'm not going to. It should go all the way up. And set right back down, basically back on this rubber hanger, which centers it and everything else. Alright, so the whole thing's back together, clipped, everything else. I'm going to clean up this edge, and I'm going to clean up the underside of the top hat a little bit more, and then we're going to get this thing back in. Reverse order from the way it came out. Alright, so the top hat is back in. The fuel lines are on. Now, before we do anything else, we want to plug it in and make sure there's no leaks. Shouldn't be, but with this being a new pump and all that, we're going to make sure. All we're going to do is flip the key on, flip the key off. Just enough to where it primes it and see if there's any leaks. So let's do that. Alright, let's plug back in. So let me prime it. Okay, so I primed it twice and it shows no leaks. I'm going to put this cover back over it, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. So yeah, the next thing should be motor mounts, because those are easy too. So we're doing fuel pump, motor mounts, And then we could do clutch line real quick. Then you start looking at doing the gauge pod. The water lines go along with turbo mounting and all that. So yeah, I can tell you once I take off the downpipe, I'll just test fit it again once I pull it off and put the motor mounts on, because I just need to make sure it clears. If it doesn't clear, I need to hammer some more into the body or move something. So that shouldn't be. So that's what we're going to do in just a second. So stay tuned. Okay, so I'm just going to do the fuel or the clutch line real quick. This came from Injuku. Can't remember the brand name, but it was one of the cheaper ones. Yeah, and it's silver. So I paid a little bit extra for the silver because otherwise I would have gotten a cheaper one that was in green or something like that. And I wanted this to kind of match the engine bay with some sort of order and not be lime green or something like that. So yeah, let's throw this on. Okay, so we're going to compare these two clutch lines. This was my original clutch line, which is a brake line with two double flared fittings on them. All hard line all the way down. When this twisted up at the master cylinder, it leaked. So this one should be a little bit better because it's got a 90 and goes where I need it to go. So it just goes straight down to where I need it. So it's got a banjo fitting on the other side. It goes to the transmission, and that goes to the master cylinder. So we're gonna throw this in, and hopefully it's a heck of a lot better and doesn't leak air into it to where my clutch gets stuck. So let's install this. Okay, so it's all hooked up. It's tightened up here at the top, tightened down there at the bottom with the banjo bolt. I'm gonna mount it up here, kind of with the brake lines, so it's out of the area for heat. It goes behind the master cylinder up here, and then it'll be just zip tied over, and that should give it enough room to be nice and snug against the firewall and everything else. So we're going to go ahead and fill it full of fluid, and we're going to prime it. So complete it. So got some nasty fluid in it right now. So let's get to pumping. Fuel pump, clutch line. Slowly getting there. I mean, what is it left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish. 10 more things. Getting there slowly. So clutch line is done, like I said, and it is sealing somehow. I can get it to seal. There we go. Alright. It's sealed. It's bled. I just have to, like I said, I'm gonna zip tie it up there. Zip ties, the greatest thing in the world. Alright, so I do need to take the turbo back off. Like I said, I need to try the downpipe on once I put the motor mounts on. So I've already taken the bolts or the nuts off the motor mounts. Here they are. I need to lift the motor just a little bit and pop these poly mounts out and put these rubber mounts back in because I want a smoother ride. My issue, I gotta see if I have the proper nuts for these, because I don't know if I do. So I may or may not. In my pile of nuts and bolts, I should have some somewhere in here because I had them whenever I got rid of my other ones. So I'm gonna have to go and search that real quick before I do anything else. So let's find the nuts for motor mounts. Alright, so this is getting to be more of an adventure than I wanted. Pull the turbo. Now I've got to pull the motor mount bracket itself out because yeah, these are a little bit bigger than these. I need to find out like the size of these versus the size of those because it does drop the motor down. But look at how grimy these are, and these things suck. Don't ever do that. Don't ever go to poly motor mounts because they're not good. Not at all. Before I do stick this in there, I am gonna measure up the total length of both, or depth or height I guess. So let's do that real quick, see if there's a difference between the poly bushings and the stock motor mounts. So let me get the tool. So I haven't showed these on Tool Tuesday yet. Digital calipers, they work wonders, and if you really have a question about something, these are the ways to measure them. So we're gonna hit on. All right, it's zeroed out. All right, now we take our nasty old motor mounts and we take them and put them in here and we shove them together. All right, 8507, 8520, something like that. 8530. Okay, 85 millimeters. Let's see. These are actually shorter, huh? Look at that, 79. These are 5 millimeters shorter. So this means that my my motor mounts should be better off now that I'm putting these back on, because it's going to lower it a little bit more. It's going to lower it 5 millimeters. Alright, so motor mount 1 is almost completely in. It is sitting in the hole down there and sitting in the motor mount up here. The issue is the other side has so much stuff around it, it's going to be complicated getting in there and pulling that bracket off. I have a feeling I got to go up from up underneath, which is not going to be fun either. So I just know I've got to pull it off, put this motor mount back on. So step over here and look at what we got going on. We got a mess down here. It's right behind the oil filter, and yeah. So I've got to figure out how to get back there. Like I said, it's probably best to come up from up underneath. I got enough room right now, but once I pull that off, just bolt the other one back on, one nut, and then after I do that, put it back all together and then drop the engine back down. So that's what I need to do. So wish me luck. Okay, so with this I'm pulling the oil filter off because I got to put the turbo line on anyway. So we're going to pop this turbo line on with this little T right here, and we're going to replace where another T is at the same time, so we knock two birds out with one stone with getting this motor mount in here. So makes it easier because we got to do that anyway. And then next we had to figure out these water lines. I really wish I had the fitting, because there is a fitting over here, goes to the water jacket right there in the block, and you can actually have one of the water lines going into that as well. But we're not doing that, so we are going to just start popping stuff off now. So let's get to it. So this is my first concoction of having an oil pressure sending unit, and then an oil pressure gauge, and this is where it plugs into the block with RTV all the way around it. So that's my ghetto, Teflon tape. It's my ghetto fix to getting that in there. The threads don't match up because it's not the right threads. So this other one has the right threads, so we're going to pull all this apart and put it back together into the block. Alright, so we're starting out with this little block here. So I'm just going to put it in here very gently, just for some pressure on it. Alright, there we go. Now we're going to use Teflon tape on this, and it's going to seal it up to where it shouldn't leak oil. Alright, so redid this. So everything has Teflon tape on it, except this one right now. Once we put it in there, we'll screw it in. The fun part's going to be screwing it in with this, because this whole line moves. It is a cheap line, and this will plug up to the turbo. It's going to go behind the block, so that's how we're going to do it. So now that we have that ready to go, now I am ready to pull off this mount. If I can get this off easily enough, I shouldn't have any issues with the turbo line or the other stuff in here. So I'm going to pop this off real quick, which looks like just a couple of little ratchets, and once I break it loose, it should be easy. Alright, well that took 40 forevers and a whole bunch of different tools, but I finally got it off. I got some oil leaks. That's what it looks like down here. I'm not sure where. Gonna spray some brake cleaner down there and try and wipe it off and see if that helps at all, and see if it was from this front cover, because it looks like it was blowing backwards. I'm hoping it's just that, because it's all kind of up front, but it kind of slowly gathers backwards. So we're gonna see what we can do towards cleaning that mess up before we stick all this back in. Even most of this has gunk all over it from a couple of years of riding around with it. So yeah, clean this real quick, put the motor mount on here, and then put this all back together. Alright, well, I got some stuff in the mail. I think I already said that. But I got my gauge pod installed. It is Gorilla taped, double-sided tape. And it's got 2 screws on each side holding it to the top of that steering wheel cover. I've got the hoses ran, the wires and everything. They're kind of tucked away. You can kind of see them from here, which I kind of don't like, but I don't really care. I just drained the radiator, so it's drained. Motor mounts are in. It's set down. I did run the oil line, but it kinked a few times, and I don't like how it turned out. So I ordered another one. Ordered one with swivel fittings on the ends, so I won't have the issue that I just had with that one kinking. I'm hoping to get it in either today or in 2 days or so. Once I get that in, I'll put everything back in towards the oil line stuff and the pressure gauge. With the turbo, I'm still waiting on that oil line. I need that oil line because I want to hook everything up before I mount the turbo permanently. I haven't bolted the motor mounts down to the subframe yet because I might have to lift this up to get this turbo in easier. I've got bolts, so I'm going to bolt this together first, and then hopefully get my water lines ran and hook up my oil feed and hook up my oil return / drain and go from there. I did get a fuel filter. I did get my elbow, and I also got that fell. I also got my plug wires from NGK. So we're getting there. I drained the radiator because of my water lines. They're going to wrap around there, and I think I may have to go get some brass fittings to make these work. Because my line isn't that big. It's the only thing that fit that style barb on the turbo. So, yeah. So, with that, I'm going to hook into the heater cores lines and go from there. I got a couple other things I want to button up before I get too much further in here with everything. This wire needs to be shortened a whole lot. I need to cover up this positive terminal right here I need to finish my oil lines. I'm probably going to replace the fuel lines right there because there's not too much to do with it. So I'll probably replace my fuel lines. I may even get rid of this metal hard line, even though it does hold my throttle in place. So I'm not sure yet, but I know the top one I don't use because it was the return from the regulator and all that, which I'm not using the stock style regulator now. Then on top of that, let's see, I've got these other lines to do. Yeah, we're getting there. It's just taking a whole lot longer than I wanted because I didn't have everything I thought I had. And with that, mail has slowed me down. Work has made me slow down, but slowly we're getting there. I did wrap some wire loom around this hose going over there. The reason is because I didn't want it to be bouncing on here and rub into the panel and also have a whole lot of vibration from the stainless line. So yep, I just need to revamp the wires in here as well completely, because as you see they're kind of falling apart. They're all electrical taped together. I've got another harness that I could actually use, but I need that harness for this car. So we're slowly getting there. I'm just happy to have most of my lines in and most of my stuff. I did order a 2.5 inch 12-inch coupler so I can cut it into 4-inch sections, and that gives me 3. So I'll have a couple more sections of straight 2.5 inch couplers. Also ordered a 6-pack of clamps to go along with that because I need them. This is a lot of ranting and raving and talking. So yeah. I'm taking too long on this. Alright, well, I've been sitting here for almost an hour going through things and the different things I find. Well, I want to do these fuel lines, so I started undoing those. At the same time I was looking at doing these, I looked down and was doing the water line, but then I started seeing things. My EGR valve, or excuse me, my PCV valve is ran to atmosphere. So since it's ran to the atmosphere, I plugged off the 4 ports up under the intake. Well, it was done with rubber stoppers, which deteriorate over time with heat and everything else, so they're falling out. So there's that. And then I had some silicone back there because this intake had butterflies on it. Well, the butterflies on the intake were removed and silicone was put in place of certain holes. So I think I'm having an issue with my idle because of that. And I think there's an air leak. So I'm pulling the whole intake off, and then I'm going to run my water lines. It shouldn't take long, maybe 2 hours at most. But I'm going to fix a couple things with that. We're going to JB weld the, either weld or JB weld the ports that go to each runner. And then the hole from the butterfly, we're going to put JB weld in that's better than silicone so it doesn't just deteriorate and rot off. So I've unhooked all the plugs minus the temp sensor right here. This other temp sensor looks like it's still on. No, that's just a glob of other stuff. Got the intake right here coming off, which I'll probably just unbuckle it from here. I'm going to take this hose off, set it to the side. Throttle cable's coming off and grounds are coming off. This fuel line isn't detached yet. It's loose, but not detached. And then there are, I think it's 8 12mm bolts that hold the intake on. So we're going to pop all them off. Fuel rail staying on it, and yeah, hopefully it just pops off I've got new gaskets, so we'll do a new gasket on it. Make sure I'm not leaking anywhere. Because I think I have a little water leak, just a like pinhole somewhere. So yeah, this might solve some issues. Let's get into this now. All right, intake's out. Intake's out. Oh, roll this over. All right, you see these plugs? These plugs deteriorate quickly, and these are actually holding up pretty good. We're going to take care of these. I'm going to see if I can possibly just weld them together. Maybe. The other way to do it is you put JB Weld in them, and then you just crimp them very well. And sometimes that holds it up pretty good. The other part that I noticed, that I'm thinking, is right here. This little hole might be leaking, so I'm going to kind of drill that out a little bit, rough it up, and put some JB Weld in there because the silicone's not holding. So, yeah. Other than that, we should be good to go with all that, and that'll fix that. I don't feel like threading the intake, so that's why I'm not plugging it with plugs like that, threaded plugs. So yeah, got a couple other things to do, and we'll be done with this whole thing. All right, well, water lines are in. I just got to put the intake back on, but I'm going to throw a quick wash on it to get it to look better. Lifted the motor up, got the turbo in, used a multi-layer gasket for the exhaust manifold, and then put some copper exhaust sealant on there. It's prime, it always works. I haven't had a failure in it yet. So stretches out nice whenever you have a gap, and whenever everything cools back down, it goes right back together, so your gaskets don't just blow out. But everything, the lines, got water lines, oil line's just chilling somewhere down here. That's the, right here, the second line down there. So I gotta put it where it needs to go. And it's gonna come around and come down here and hook into a AN to 1/8 inch part right there. I'm gonna put some lining on this so it doesn't screw against that, probably a rubber hose. Got a P-clamp on here, which whenever I put the intake back on, I'm gonna P-clamp it up here to the bolt so it doesn't rustle around. I might have to shorten this bigger hose a little bit just to get it to fit, or the smaller hose, either one. But I might have to get it to fit a little bit better because it was getting too close to the steering shaft and the exhaust manifold. So, or the downpipe. Just don't want it to hit anything and then scrub a hole in it and we have a water leak. But it's coming together, so I'm going to start buttoning this thing up as soon as I possibly can. So that's what we're doing right this second. A couple little tweaks here and there, and then we'll get the manifold, the intake back on, and start plugging stuff back up, and then finish putting everything back together. And then comes the ECU, because everything else you see on this list. So water lines are done, mount turbo is done, ECU and front brakes and intake are the only few things left other than the hot side. The hot side's almost done. I've got all my manifolds and stuff like that, so, or couplers. So yeah, back to it. Okay, so we fixed our water lines. They're shorter now, and they aim a little bit better. Turbo line, oil line is coated in some silicone so it doesn't rub or destroy things. Turbo is mounted. All lines are on it. Drain line, oil line, both water lines. So my only issue now that I'm running into is my intake. I've got to figure that out because I've got all this junk right here. My hot side is kind of going around my intake, or my intake's going around my hot side. Not sure yet. Still figuring that out. The mail sucks. They lost my package. So my oil line with my AN fitting I'm waiting on my AN fitting in the mail and it hasn't shown up yet. So, I wanted to not put my intake on yet because I wanted to do that and make sure I had enough room to do everything. But it's almost looking like it would be just better if I went ahead and put my intake on and called that a day and ran my fuel lines and got all that situated, because then once I do that I'll have all this done. But that one piece is holding me up. Then my exhaust, that's trash. My exhaust is I'm about to put on. So in reality, let's see, we've mounted that, we've done water lines, we've done drain line, exhaust is still in the works because I got to put it back on, intake, hot side, and front brakes, and ECU. Other than that, all the rest of the stuff is done. And I added fuel lines because I wanted to renew them because they were nasty looking, so got some new fuel line. A lot of it actually, wherever I put it. Probably a couple years ago when I was doing a project, and I got a lot left. So might as well put some new stuff on there. But yeah, progress. So yeah, I'm gonna leave y'all here. I'm gonna throw this exhaust on, and it's probably gonna be in the next video. But oh, the other thing, my mass airflow sensor for, let me set y'all down. Oh, if I can. My mass airflow sensor, my Z32, I heard some rattling in there, so I took this off, I looked in there, and it's nothing but pure orange. So I'm gonna order another one. I don't like that. I need that in a pigtail. So now that I got that situated, I'm gonna make a few calls and see if I can get one from a buddy. If not, I'll just order new. I really didn't want to, but it looks like that's how it's gonna go. More things and less progress than I wanted. I wanted to have this thing to the point of I could almost start it today. We're getting there slowly. We did a lot of work today though, with the exhaust and or the turbo and the lines and all that, because that is ready to go minus that oil line, and the exhaust is about to go on. So until next time, I want to thank you for joining in to another episode of the shop, and check out Teespring and other things as of Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. So, but yeah, thanks again.